You don't usually give up all at once. You give up quietly. You skip one day. Then you tell yourself you'll get back to it tomorrow. Then tomorrow becomes the weekend. The weekend becomes next week. And before you know it, the thing you said mattered is sitting in the background again, waiting for the next version of you to come rescue it. And the worst part is you still care. You haven't stopped wanting the result. You haven't stopped believing it matters. You've just hit the part of change most people aren't prepared for. The gap between effort and evidence. That painful middle where you've started doing the work, but the proof hasn't shown up yet. And if you don't understand that gap, your mind can make quitting sound like wisdom right before the roots start forming. That's the secret to sticking with it. Not more hype, not another dramatic restart. It's learning how to stay with the process before it starts rewarding you back. The beginning feels good. You're motivated. You've got the plan. You can picture the better version of your life. There's that little surge of energy where you think, okay, this time I'm actually doing this. The hard part comes later, after the excitement wears off, after the work gets repetitive, after you've been showing up for a while but the results haven't really shown up yet. That's when your mind starts negotiating. Maybe this isn't working. Maybe I picked the wrong thing. Maybe I'm forcing it. Maybe I should take a break and come back later. And the dangerous part is that those thoughts can sound very reasonable. Sometimes changing course is the right thing to do. Sometimes a strategy needs to change. Sometimes a goal needs to be questioned. But a lot of people don't walk away because the path is wrong. They walk away because they're in the most uncomfortable part of the path. They're doing the work, but the proof hasn't arrived. They're trying to become someone new, but the old version of them still feels more familiar. They've left the shore, but they can't see the other side yet. And that middle space can mess with you. There's a simple story about a man digging for water. He dug a few feet in one place, found nothing, moved somewhere else, dug a few feet there, found nothing, moved again, and kept repeating the same pattern. By the end, he was exhausted, surrounded by shallow holes, and still had no water. The problem wasn't that there was no water. The problem was that he kept leaving before he got deep enough. A lot of change works that way. We try something long enough to feel the strain, but not long enough to reach the result. Then we interpret the strain as a sign that we should move on. And it's easy to do because the early signs of real change are often unimpressive. You bounced back after a setback. You kept one small promise. You did the awkward first version. You didn't disappear after a bad day. You stayed connected to the process when no one was clapping. That may not feel dramatic, but it may be the root system forming underground. A seed doesn't look successful while it's buried. For a while, all you see is dirt. You water it, you wait, still dirt. If you judge the process only by what's visible, you'll assume nothing is happening. But below the surface, roots are forming. Quietly, slowly, without applause. And if you keep pulling the seed up to check whether it's working, you destroy the process you're trying to measure. That's what many people do with themselves. They start. They check for proof too early. They don't see enough evidence. They get discouraged. Then they start over somewhere else. New plan, new routine, new strategy, new burst of motivation. Another shallow hole. This is also where the brain gets involved. The brain likes feedback. It likes evidence that effort is paying off. In neuroscience, there's a concept called reward prediction error, which has to do with the gap between the reward your brain expected and what actually happened. When effort doesn't produce the expected reward quickly enough, motivation can drop. The brain starts updating the story. Maybe this isn't worth it. This is how the brain learns. But meaningful change often doesn't reward you right away. The reward often lags behind the effort. And that lag is where people lose faith. There's also research on habit formation showing that habits often take longer to feel natural than people expect. In one well-known study by psychologist Philippa Lally and her colleagues, the typical time was about 66 days. And for some people, depending on the behavior, it took much longer. So if you've been trying something for a week or two and it still feels unnatural, that doesn't necessarily mean you're failing. It may mean you're still in the part where the old identity is louder than the new one. And that's where the subconscious comes in. Your subconscious doesn't only ask, is this good for me? It asks, is this familiar? Is this safe? Do we know how to survive this? The old pattern might be frustrating, but at least it's known. The new pattern may be better, but at first it can feel unstable. That's why the pull to stop can get strongest before the new identity has had enough evidence to feel real. You're building a new baseline, but your system still trusts the old one. So the secret to sticking with it isn't some huge motivational breakthrough. It's learning how to keep the thread alive while the proof is still catching up. The thread is the smallest honest action that says, I'm still in this. If you're building a business, it might be sending one message. If you're rebuilding your health, it might be taking a 10-minute walk. If you're creating content, it might be writing the rough outline. If you're rebuilding confidence, it might be doing the uncomfortable thing imperfectly, but honestly. Small is fine. Fake isn't. The next step has to be real enough that your identity can register it. You're giving your subconscious evidence. Evidence that one bad day doesn't become a lost month. Evidence that discomfort doesn't mean disappearance. That's how self-trust gets rebuilt. Through quiet repetition, through returning, through keeping promises small enough to keep until your system starts believing you. A lot of people think consistency means never drifting. But you're going to drift sometimes. You'll miss the workout. You'll skip the post. You'll lose rhythm. You'll have days where you don't have much to give. The skill is return speed. How fast do you come back? Can you miss one day without turning it into 3 weeks? Can you have one awkward attempt without deciding you're not built for this? Can you lose rhythm without making it part of your identity? That's where people change, in the return. So when you feel that pull to stop, don't make a long-term decision from a low-state moment. If you're exhausted, ashamed, anxious, depleted, or spiraling, your mind is going to look for relief. And relief can sound like wisdom when you're in that state. Sleep first. Walk first. Breathe first. Step away from the screen. Talk to someone grounded. Give your nervous system a chance to come down before you let your mind write the final verdict. Then ask yourself, do I actually want to stop, or do I just want relief? Sometimes you don't want to abandon the goal. You want the pressure to stop. You want the uncertainty to stop. You want the discomfort of not knowing whether it's working to stop. You may not need to quit. You may need a smaller next step. More rest, better support, a clearer plan, less pressure around the goal. And if you keep stopping in the same emotional place, pay attention. Maybe you stop when you feel visible. Maybe you stop when you don't get quick validation. Maybe you stop when trying fully would make failure feel too personal. Maybe you stop when the goal starts asking you to become someone your system doesn't fully recognize yet. Those are subconscious safety patterns. A deeper part of you may still associate the new path with risk, judgment, disappointment, pressure, or identity change. That's why more motivation doesn't always solve it. Motivation can get you moving, but if the deeper system still feels unsafe, motivation eventually runs into resistance. Lasting change requires the deeper system to start feeling safe enough to continue, safe enough to repeat the action before the reward arrives, safe enough to become familiar with a new version of you. So if you're in that gap right now, where the results aren't obvious yet, and part of you is wondering whether any of this is working, don't pull up the seed too early. Give the roots time. Take the next true step. Let the new identity become familiar through evidence, and let yourself keep going until it eventually feels completely natural. If this resonates, the Subconscious Starter Kit is a strong next step. Inside, you'll find a free training that helps you understand the hidden patterns behind self-sabotage, avoidance, and inconsistent follow-through, along with foundational videos on the subconscious mind and hypnosis. You'll also get the Sanctuary Session, a guided hypnosis audio track designed to help you settle your system and reconnect with a calmer internal state. Because if you keep stopping in the same emotional place, the answer may not be another motivational push. It may be learning what your subconscious is protecting you from and helping your deeper system feel safe enough to keep going. Remember, breakthroughs begin within. Bye for now.